Thank you for everyone that's joined so far. I just have a few more creeping in as we talk, but yeah, we shall make a start. Very excited to have everyone with us this afternoon and have a chance really to answer some of the questions that are coming at us at the moment. We may not get time to cover everyone's questions today, but we shall do our best. I'm going to be firing some questions at Alex, who I shall introduce in a moment. Anything we don't get through, of course, we shall follow up after the webinar. If you do have some questions as we go through, please do just drop a comment in the Q&A box below. We'll have a Q&A session after we finish. I have some key questions that I've been picking up from my clients over the recent weeks, which we're going to start with. And yeah, hopefully everyone should get lots of value out of the webinar. I've had a really good response since posting the event a couple of weeks back. It seems pretty clear there are lots of Brits in the UK clawing at the walls at the moment, waiting for the borders to open. More importantly now, of course, wondering if they're going to be able to stay in Spain for more than just a holiday, and whether or not they have the ability now to be permanent residents in 2021. The aim of the webinar today is to explain a little bit about what has changed since the UK left Europe, and now, of course, what everyone needs to know in order to be able to move to Spain from the UK post-Brexit. The bad news is it's not quite as straightforward as it was from last year. However, either way, once we finish the webinar today, you'll have a really good understanding of all the key facts that you need to know to help make that move. And for those that are not familiar with myself, to introduce me, I'm Jason Swan, one of the senior partners here at Holborn Assets. Holborn Assets, we're an expatriate financial advisor here in Spain, based just on the south coast towards Puerto Banús. And with me today, we have Alex, who is the founding partner of MyLawyerInSpain. Alex, thank you for joining on our webinar.
Hi there, Jason. How are you doing?
I'm very good, thank you. Thanks for taking the time out to run through some questions. I'm sure you're a pretty busy man at the minute.
Yeah, things are busy. Yeah, but no, thank you for the kind invite.
No problem at all. And yeah, I find myself talking a lot about the same topics with my clients at the moment, certainly those that are looking to move over to Spain. I think there's some nerves about whether or not it can still be done. There's a lot of hearsay on the internet. There's a lot of misinformation on the internet and different Facebook groups and things like this. So I thought, who best to ask those questions to than your good self, really.
Yeah, thank you. So I mean, just to give a bit of background on myself, Jason. So my parents moved to Spain in 1981. Spain wasn't a member of the EU then; they joined in 1985. And then, when you wanted to apply for residency, you'd start the process, and it would be for a rolling 6 months. So every 6 months, we had to leave Spain, and typically what we would do is go to Portugal for the day, have lunch, get on the ferry there, have lunch, come back over with a passport stamped and start the process again. So, things have changed then. Spain joined the EU, and now the UK's left the EU. So, interesting times. And I basically, so I grew up in Spain, went to English schools to start with. Parents saw I wasn't learning any Spanish, so they put me in a Spanish school. 6 months, I was fluent, and I kind of finished Spanish school here. And then I went back to the UK in 92, a long time ago now, to study at the University of East Anglia, where I studied law with European legal systems. And I started practicing as a lawyer in 99, qualified in the UK in 2001. And I came back to Spain in 2003. And then since then, we've been active clients buying, selling, inheriting property in Spain and doing business in Spain and the islands, across the whole of Spain. We've got offices, our head offices in Marbella, then we've got offices in Almeria, Murcia, Valencia, La Zenia and Alicante, Madrid, Mallorca, and Tenerife. So broad-based law firm, and yeah. So after the UK's referendum result to leave the EU, we slowly had a greater trickle of clients wishing to become residents, and then we launched a new website called GetSpanishResidency.com, and we've got 2 people working full-time on that at the moment. So we were very busy last year. A lot of British clients wanted to buy a property before the end of the withdrawal agreement. So we acted for them in those property purchases. And then we've also acted for quite a few applying for residency. So and you know, the rules last year were different to the rules this year. It's probably easier and less financially onerous to do so last year. But just some tips, you know, if you were here before the 31st of December, you can still apply to become a resident this year. I'd suggest, you know, contacting us as quickly as possible to start that process going. If you are married to an EU national, then the good news is that they can apply to become a resident in Spain, and then you can piggyback off their applications. And then Jason, you know, we've got the two visas really, which are kind of the most popular at the moment, which is the non-lucrative visa and the golden visa.
Good. And then I just wanted to ask as well, whilst we got you today, Alex, about those wanting to work in Spain as well. And I offered a position to a gentleman coming from the UK a few months back, and he quite simply hasn't been able to get that visa. He's had to actually start looking through the likes of Portugal and other parts of the EU to get here. So it's slightly different with the golden visa and the non-lucrative visa if they want to work. I think as well, so it'd be good to touch on that as well. No, good. Okay, super. Well, thanks for the introduction, Alex. We'll start at the top. I mean, how bad is it? How bad are the changes now, in your opinion, compared to last year?
So basically, British people coming to Spain now can, if they want to come on holiday, they can spend up to 3 months here, so 90 days in a 180-day period, and then they have to leave. And that the 90 days is actually really 90 nights. So that's how the Spanish taxman would consider it. So, you know, 90 nights in a 180-day period. Spread, you don't have to be here consecutively. You can spend various nights here and then go back. But that actually, it's 90 days across the European Union. That's the kind of main restriction. After you've been here for 90 days, you've got to go back, wait for your 90 days to elapse, and then you can come back. We might see some flexibility about that further down the line when, you know, at the moment I'm aware of Spaniards going back to the UK. They're allowed to spend up to 6 months in the UK before they have to apply for a visa. So you know, obviously because of the pandemic, the ongoing pandemic, the governments are more focused on dealing with that than dealing with residency issues. But so this year though, the major change is that a main applicant coming to reside in Spain, not to work, has to apply for what's known as the non-lucrative visa, which we can of course help them with, and they have to prove that they've got 27,115 euros in a bank account, and they start the application process with the Spanish consul in the UK. It takes about 1 or 2 months to collate the documents, and then the Spanish consul will take between 1 and 3 months to process the application. The application has to be made in person, and you will be asked to attend a pre-visa interview with the Spanish consul to go through your application. If you want to work in Spain, then the non-lucrative visa is not the one for you, because your visa application will be turned down. But assuming you just want to come to Spain to retire, to reside, then you've got to prove that you've got that 27,115 euros in the bank account, 6,778 euros for each dependent. So, you know, a married couple, Jason, you're looking at 33,893 euros. They've also got to have they've got to have an address in Spain where they're coming to. They've got to have a recent clean criminal record certificate, medical certificate, stamped or written out by a doctor stating that they're not suffering from any World Health Organization diseases such as cholera or Ebola. COVID's not included in that. And obviously, you know, a property to come out to. So those are really the new arrangements. And once they come to Spain, once they're notified that the visa has been approved, they've got a month to collect it. They come out to Spain. The visa lasts for 3 months and 15 days. So they come out to Spain, and then they've got to apply for the TIE card, which is a foreigner's identification card. So and then from the date that they've got that TIE card, which is a kind of photographic identity card, which is a very useful document to have here in Spain, because it means you don't have to carry your passport around. Then they've got a year. The non-lucrative visa is granted for 1 year. So they've got 1 year from the date of getting the TIE card, and then they have to renew that visa after 2 years. And at that stage, Jason, because they're renewing for 2 years, they've got to prove that they've got double the amount of money in. So 33,893 euros for the first year, but for the second year, 67,786 for a couple.
But what if, Alex, they didn't have that after the second year? What if you had the same savings as what you had when you got here? What would happen then?
Well, then potentially that visa could be turned down.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, compare that to last year when you only needed about up to 9,000 euros in a bank account, an income of 850. You can see the financial requirements have become, a lot more onerous. For a family of 4, the figures are 47,449 euros for the first year and 94,898 euros for the second year. So that's the kind of non-lucrative visa. If your pockets stretch a bit further and deeper, then you can apply for a golden visa. And the golden visa is basically means that you've got to purchase a property of 500,000 euros plus, and you've got to keep that investment. It's got to be mortgage free, so no charges on that property. And on the golden visa front, Jason, there's 2 options. You can either apply for the golden visa from the UK, or you can apply for it from here. And I'd recommend always applying it from here, because when it's granted here, it's for a period of 2 years, whereas in the UK it's only granted for a year period. The golden visa is the kind of popular name for it, but basically the 1 year visa is known as the residency visa for investors, and then if you apply for it from here, it's called the initial authorization for investors residency. So a bit of a mouthful, and that's why they call it the golden visa. But the same requirements, here so in that situation you've got to have property or properties over the value of 500,000 euros, and you could have purchased those from September 2013 onwards, and you can use those to apply for that golden visa. And you've got to prove again that you've got the financial requirements are the same. But unlike the non-lucrative visa, you don't have to spend a minimum period of time in Spain, and you can work. So the non-lucrative visa, if you're here for less than 180 days, then it won't get renewed. With the golden visa, you only have to be here for a day, and it will still get renewed. Okay, and with the golden visa, you can actually work in Spain.
Good. Okay. And for someone, Alex, that is looking to, someone that is self-employed, looking to maybe set up a business, open up a bar or a restaurant, for example, here in Spain, is it the same visa, or is there another type of visa for that as well?
Yeah. So that they would need a different type of visa, and in effect, they've got to apply for a visa from the Spanish consul, and they've got to prove or demonstrate via a business plan, Jason, about what they're proposing to do in Spain. So if they're opening a bar or a restaurant or investing in a business, then they have to prepare a business plan. We're working with firms of accountants to prepare that business plan to add to the visa application. And that again, it's not quite as straightforward as it was last year. You could come out, see a business, you could buy it. This year and onwards, you've got to actually prepare a business plan, really think it through carefully, which is not a bad thing, and consider the investment you're going to make, and demonstrate to the Spanish authorities that you are going to make an investment in Spain, which is going to be worthwhile. So yeah, and that process again, typically, it's going to take 1 or 2 months to collate the documents and 2 or 3 months for the visa to be granted.
Okay. What's the kind of first port of call, Alex, for somebody that is looking to move to Spain and trying to work out which visa is most suitable? What's the first port of call for them?
Well, I suppose it's really important to consider what you want to do. So, are you coming here to retire, just to reside, or are you going to work? If you're going to work, can you afford a property of 500,000 euros or plus? If not, then you've got to apply for the work visa and put together a business plan. If you're going to be employed by a company, then you would have found this. The company actually has to advertise that position with the local unemployment office, and if there's no applicants coming forward, then you've got to demonstrate that, and then you can put forward the candidate that you want from the UK, but you've still got to get the consul's formal approval and a visa for that person to be able to work in Spain. So yeah, it just becomes a lot more complicated and delays things somewhat, Jason.
Yeah. Okay. So in summary, if we need to work or we plan to spend over 90 days in Europe, not just Spain, but in Europe, we need to be considering which type of visa is most suitable. And okay. So that makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay. What other questions did we have? So general kind of speed of the process. I know I'm sure a little delay perhaps at the moment, Alex, but typically from start to finish for these visas.
Yeah. So as I said, I think our experience is it's taking between 1 and 2 months to collate all the documents, because you've got to get, if you're a married couple, we need a duplicate marriage certificate. We need the criminal record certificate. We need the doctor's certificate, and then you've got the bank statements. So you collate those documents 1 to 2 months, and the Spanish embassy, consul are processing those within 2 or 3 months. So I'd say from start to finish, Jason, allow up to 6 months.
Perfect. Okay. Just whilst on this point, Alex, I just wanted to just drop a quick note, actually, that the difference between applying for residencia and becoming tax resident in Spain as well, which is something I often find people get kind of mixed up between the two. What of course you're covering there, Alex, is you're applying for residency and becoming resident in Spain. For me, just a note to everyone really that your tax residency becomes applicable after a period of 6 months in Spain, and of course that's an important time frame to be mindful of, so that you can kind of structure your affairs in line with perhaps having a different tax regime as well, which will follow becoming resident in Spain as well. But no, that's clear. Thank you, Alex.
Jason, that's a really important point you've raised there. So Spain, I think quite logically, its tax year runs from January to December, and if you spend more than 183 days in Spain in that tax year, then you become tax resident in Spain and will pay tax in Spain on worldwide assets and income. So the non-lucrative visa, you've got to be here for a minimum period of 180 days. So if you don't want to be a Spanish tax resident, you've got to keep a record of the days that you are here. And then if you've applied for that golden visa, then again, if you want to become a tax resident, then obviously I'd suggest having a tax calculation prepared on how much tax you potentially pay in Spain on your worldwide assets and income before you actually become a Spanish tax resident.
Yeah, and things to look out for are always things like ISAs back in the UK, which would be tax-free as a UK resident. Things like premium bonds and other certain UK investment vehicles become taxable when you become Spanish tax resident. So yeah, good point, and important to kind of differentiate between those two as well. Okay, so just on the topic of kind of buying a house, Alex, obviously it's we talked about the golden visa for buying a house over 500,000. I mean, for those that are buying a house at say half of that, I'd say 250. What is kind of good advice as to the process that they should follow in getting the visa and getting the house? And
yeah, so I mean, yeah, we act for clients buying properties from 30,000 euros to multi-million euro properties across Spain, Jason. The buying process hasn't changed. That's exactly the same. You're still going to pay taxes transfer taxes on the purchase of a property here. Depending on where you buy, it can range from 8% to 10%. If you buy a brand new property, you pay VAT at 10% and you pay stamp duty at 1.5%. So, when you're thinking about thinking about buying a property, then obviously I think it's important to add to prepare a budget, and on top of the purchase price, you're typically going to pay in costs and taxes, say between 12 and 14%. So that's important. Buying process for British people is exactly the same. The costs exactly the same for everyone. The only thing that does change, and this is for non-Europeans anyway, is that on an annual basis, so the year after you've purchased the property, you've got to, if you're a non-resident, so you're not living here for more than 6 months a year, then you pay the non-resident's income tax. And for non-Europeans, the applicable rate there is 24% as opposed to 19%. So that's quite important. And that is a nominal amount. So on a property of 200,000 euros, you might be looking at a tax liability of 200 to 300 euros a year. And that might go up with this by, say, 50 euros. So it's not something to put anyone off buying property here. However, the downside is if you rented that property out, obviously you've got to register with the local or the regional tourist authority to be able to rent that property out. But the tax rate is 24% on the income that you generate from that property, and no costs are deductible. So that is a bit of a sting in the tail for those people wishing to rent their property out. So the management costs, advertising, cleaning, proportional costs of water, insurance, electric, community fees, those costs aren't deductible. So that, compared to Europeans will pay 19%, and those costs are deductible. Non-Europeans 24% tax, and those costs aren't deductible.
Okay, good. So I'm just kind of mapping this out in my head, Alex. Unfortunately, when I moved out to Spain for 5 years back, it was literally kind of jump on a plane and kind of deal with everything just as and when, and you kind of applied for your residency, and it was relatively straightforward. But for someone now that is thinking of selling up in the UK, making that move to Spain, should they be applying for the visa? I mean, I'm just thinking through the golden visa. If they're buying a house to get the golden visa at 500,000, would they be able to apply for that visa before they've sold and before they've bought? What would the correct order be?
So I mean, this is where the timing is quite important. You've got to have a UK address and you've got to have a Spanish address. So people can come out. I was talking to someone yesterday. They're looking at moving out to Spain at the end of this year. So they're going to come out the next few months, looking to purchase the property, and then they'll buy. Then they'll apply for the visas from the UK. Other families we're talking to, they're selling the main home and buying a new, brand new home over here. That's a little bit trickier because in effect, what they've got to do is they've got to, for the golden visa, they can come to Spain and submit the application for the visa. It's got to be submitted within 90 days of being in Spain. But the non-lucrative visa, the application has to be made at the Spanish consul. So you could come out to Spain and buy a property, and you sell your UK property, come out to Spain, buy your Spanish property, or complete on your Spanish property. So coordinate the sales closely, so they're virtually simultaneous. But then within that 90-day period, they submit the applications for the visa to the Spanish consul, and then they would have to go back to for meetings and appointments with the Spanish consul to get the non-lucrative visa. So yeah, I mean, like you said, Jason, 5 years ago you came out, jump on a plane, end of story. Those days have gone.
Okay. Yeah. No, I think if it was me, Alex, I would need a bit of a helping hand with all that, because it sounds very difficult, really. So yeah, definitely something to get some advice on. But I think you've covered most of my questions from those that I had down. Is there any kind of top tips generally for those that are thinking about making the move?
Yeah. So I think, look, these are the new requirements. We've just got to deal with them. Yeah, a little bit frustrating. It's not as generous as last year, but they're not too onerous. These are the same rules and requirements that have applied to non-Europeans for quite some time. Spain is treating us as non-Europeans at the moment, so we've just got to deal with these requirements, and I think it just requires careful planning. So I think setting things up, we're acting for a lot of clients at the moment, Jason. They want to come out to Spain to buy a property later on this year as soon as they can. We're putting powers of attorney in place for them. We're applying for the Spanish tax number, their NIs, and we're opening bank accounts for them. So we're getting them ready for that prospective purchase. And then they can obtain quotes for people who are coming to live in Spain. They can obtain quotes for health insurance now. They can talk to estate agents about buying property. They can talk to agents about renting property as well. So renting before you buy is always a good option. So I think it's important just to do all the homework up front. A kind of top tip I'd say is, you need for the application process, you need private medical insurance for the first year. But when you come to Spain, you can actually register on the Padron, which is the local town hall, the census. And once you've done that, once you've been on the Padron for 1 year, then you can then start paying into the Spanish healthcare system. And that's known as the Convenio Especial. And that typically costs about 60 euros a month per person. So that might be cheaper than private medical insurance for the second year.
Okay, that's good. Super. And I think the general consensus, Alex, is plan ahead, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
Take your time with it. It's a little more tricky than, like I said, than last year. Plan that trip, make sure it fits both legally and financially, as far as the visa applications, and then making sure that you're aware of the financial implications and how things will change as well. I've got no other questions really, Alex, unless let's see if we've got any questions.
Yeah, we've had a question through there. So can you reconfirm the amount required in a bank account and income per annum for a couple? So basically, for a couple, the main applicant is 27,115, and each dependent is 6,778. So for the couple, that's 33,893 for the first year, and on the renewal, that would be 67,786 euros. And if someone was living here last year and can prove that they were here by having insurance in place, having a rental contract in place, proving that they were incurring expenses of going to the supermarket, filling the car up with petrol, etc., then we can still submit their residency applications based on last year's rules.
Very good. Okay, I'll just give it a moment for any other questions. Good chance to fire them at Alex. I have a question from Carol. Alex says she's a British citizen and a permanent resident of South Africa living in Spain. She'd like to retire in Spain. She has a property in Spain already. What would you suggest?
Okay, so basically, so we'd be delighted to act for you. We can help you apply for the non-lucrative visa. So last year we were acting for people all over the world, especially South Africans. So you apply for the non-lucrative visa, you're granted that by the Spanish consul in your country, you come to Spain, and then we can apply for your TIE card once you're here. And as part of the application process, we would attach proof of your property ownership here in South Africa. I think on our website, the GetSpanishResidency.com, we've got quite a lot of information there about the financial rules and requirements. If you have a look at the news section on that website, or just send me an email to my email address, which is Radford@MyLawyerInSpain.com. I'm happy to respond to you on that front.
Thanks, Alex. Kevin's asked, what were last year's financial rules?
Yeah, but basically, one of the things, Jason, you might have found this after 5 years in Spain, one of the consistent things about Spain is its inconsistency. right? Especially when it comes to bureaucracy. Okay, so basically, depending on where you were living in Spain or where your property was, the financial rules were slightly different. So typically, you needed for residency between 6,000 and 9,000 euros in a bank account, and you needed to prove 6 months of bank statements. That bank statement, it could be a UK or Spanish bank statement, and you'd had to have income of 850 euros. You had to be registered on the Padron, which is the local town hall census, and you had to have private medical insurance in place if you were under the age of 65, or if you were over the age of 65, you could apply for Form S1. So that basically, those were those requirements last year, not the requirements for this year.
Thanks. We have a further question. Do you see requirements for residency easing at all over time to make it easier, or are these rules here to stay?
I think for the moment they are here to stay. These rules are rules that apply to non-Europeans anyway, and governments work on a reciprocal basis. The UK is insisting that any Europeans moving to the UK have to have have to have a job offer in place, the minimum salary, I think they're talking about, is £25,000. So on that basis, the 27,115 euros for the main applicant in Spain kind of ties in with that amount. So I can't see these changing for the moment. It might just be easier, rather than only being able to spend 90 days in a 180-day period. Maybe you'll get to spend up to 180 days in a year before you have to apply for residency, or you have to leave out. Yeah, you have to leave the country and come back.
Okay. Good, thank you for that question. A question from Mark, who's selling his property in England and will rent in Spain before buying. Is there a written plan on how to go through the steps, or is it best to prepare your own?
Okay, if Mark, if you send us an email, we have got the kind of stages of the residency application process. Send us an email and I'll forward that on to you. But you can look actually again on the news section on our getspanishResidency.com website. You've got the stages there anyway. But send me an email. Happy to forward that to you.
Super. Are you able to get residency if you receive a job offer from a Spanish company, Alex?
Yeah, in effect, the Spanish company would have to deal with that application. But Jason, they've got to go through the process. They've got to advertise that at the local employment office, and if they're assuming they get no interest because it's a highly specialised job, they've got to then justify that and then process the visa for that employee.
Okay. Okay, yeah, certainly some questions worth asking before going through the process. I think they're with the employer. Question from Paul. Could you provide more details regarding a working visa? You only touched on that briefly. Also with the non-lucrative visa, what happens after the second year? Okay,
so with the non-lucrative visa, after the second year, you have to renew that. You renew it, so actually after the first year, so it's granted for an initial period of 1 year, then you renew it. You renew it for 2 years, and you can renew it for another 2 years afterwards. And at year 5, that's when you can actually apply for long-term residency, and you don't have to keep on proving that you've got this income on an annual basis. So that's kind of 5 years, and then you can stay here for longer, and you don't have to prove the financial that you've got those finances in place. As far as the working visa is concerned, in effect, you've got to put together if you're going to work on your own or self-employed, then you've got to put together a business plan setting out the work that you intend to carry out in Spain, the investment that you're going to make, where, when, how much, whether you're going to employ anyone, and as I said, we're putting those together with firms of accountants in the business plan, and that goes along with the visa application, the business plan, and the Spanish consul in your home country will process that, and assuming that they're happy with it, will then grant that visa to be able to work in Spain.
Excellent. Well, that answers your question there, Paul. Do do you suggest I move all of my savings into Spain? Maybe I could take that one, Alex.
I think that's better. That's better for you, Jason.
In my humble opinion, the answer would be no. The banking system in Spain generally isn't as, should we say, as well regulated. You don't have the same types of protection as you do in the UK. Ultimately, it depends where the money is at the moment. But Spain does, Spanish banks do have the ability to access your money should they feel they can block your account. They have a lot more control over your money than perhaps what you'd be used to with a UK bank. So just be mindful of that. Also, transfer fees and currency exchange fees with Spanish banks can be quite high as well. Personally, I would say keep what you need in Spain, and then perhaps think about the remainder staying somewhere a little bit more well regulated, should I say, a little safer. Other than that, yeah, nothing more from me on that bit. Good. So yeah, other than that, I think we'll finish on that, Alex. For anyone that has any legal questions, and also we have one last question. Do you have to have a health insurance, Alex, for the duration of the non-lucrative visa?
Yes, you do. So, and as I mentioned earlier, you can have health insurance for the first year, and when you are for the first year of being on the padron, on the census, you can then join the Convenio Especial, which is the Spanish healthcare system.
Okay, super. Can someone use their pension, Alex, as leverage for a non-lucrative visa?
They've got to prove that they've got access to those funds, Jason. So, that if they needed to call on those monies, they would be able to do so. I think that's the key, because they're asking Spain is asking now for proof of financial resources to live on. So yeah, we are preparing a cocktail of assets which we're showing to the Spanish authorities. But number one is they want to see those figures that we talked about earlier in a bank account or readily available for the applicant to use if they needed to fall on those monies.
So possibly not then, I think.
Yeah.
The answer. Okay. The questions coming in there, Alex. So yeah, so it's just saying there for any legal questions, please get in touch with Alex. For any financial questions, please feel free to contact me directly as well. My email is jason.swan at holbornassets.com. We will be looking to host some more regular webinars as we move forward. But yeah, hopefully everyone found that helpful. Hopefully we've covered everything. And yeah, we look forward to speaking with you soon. Thank you very much, Alex, for your time. Appreciate it.
Thanks for the kind invite, Jason, and thanks for the questions, everyone.
Thanks, Alex. Thanks, everyone.
Bye now. Bye.
Bye-bye.